Well, hi, Jay. Thank you so much for coming on the We Are Superman podcast, man. We had a little some gyrations there, but we're pulling this off. So thanks so much.
Yeah, Bill, thank you for having me. It's always an honor, and I'm humbled and privileged whenever I can come on and talk about the things that I love to talk about. So let's make this amazing.
I think we will. So very cool. We were talking off air about how, David was a big believer in regenerative medicine, and we've had his doctor on a couple times, and so that's why some of the things that you're dealing do really resonated with me because of where David came from with this. And I also I am known as the recovery king, if you would, from all the surgeries I've had. I've been through the whole medical, system, and I've seen
Right.
the downsides. I mean, we have a really broken medical system in this country. When I was running my youth sports businesses and I was paying for my own health insurance, I was like, my God, what am I paying for here? This is
Yeah.
absolutely nuts what's going on. And it's probably only going to get worse in this country here with what's going on with the federal government. Nobody
Yep.
knows what's going on, but there are
Yep.
some other avenues. So
Exactly.
that's why I appreciate you coming on here with us.
No, I mean, and thanks for having me. And yeah, honestly, that's kind of where we can lead it. I mean, that's what I teach people. I teach people to how to become the proactive scientists of their own health, right? To claim your sovereignty because it's a choice, Bill. I mean, most people they look at it as like, well, this is my copayment. This is what I can afford. It's 40 or 50 bucks and whatever the doctors come with me on that. But, nowadays, thankfully, a lot of people have just kind of broken out of that model and are saying like, you know what? Like I want to optimize my health. I'm not looking to, treat symptoms or band-aid symptoms. I want to like fix my health from a root cause standpoint. What is it going to cost me? What do I need to do? And obviously, I kind of represent that side of the fence of like teaching people what to do to break free from call it allopathic medicine or sick care medicine.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to put it, is sick care medicine, because obviously the industry doesn't make money on keeping you healthy. They're about curing things.
I mean, I
And
always tell people like if you went to your family doctor or your PPO doctor, insurance doctor, and you said, "Hey doc, I want to live to 150. Can you help me?" They literally look at you like, "What?
right.
What you talking about? Open up your mouth. Say ah." You know what I mean? Like they don't come from any kind of perspective like that. They come from, like you said, a sickness model. And the sickness model is like, how can we treat you, or your symptoms with medications and continue to do that. And again, every medication that is prescribed is to cover another symptom or to band-aid another issue or whatever. And they never ever really seek to treat the fundamental root cause. Another perfect example is like people with diabetes. Literally, this is how insane this is, but people go to the doctor and the doctor says, we're going to manage your diabetes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
20, 25, 30 years, you can live all that time. Meanwhile, your body breaks down, your insulin receptor sensitivity ends, you become permanently sick and dysfunctional. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's a whole podcast in itself to break down the sick care illness system, but I mean, it doesn't offer anyone any substantive value.
No, and certainly we have found you can reverse diseases like diabetes and
100%.
hypertension. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's so much of it comes down to the lifestyle we have, which doctors don't teach us either. And when I've talked to doctors and said, how much nutrition training did you have in medical school? And they usually tell me
Flying
something on the order
cars.
of 4 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. With a little interruption, we are back.
What's going on, Bill? The wonders of modern technology, baby. What can you do?
It messes with me all the freaking time.
Adapt and pivot, as my wife always says, adapt and pivot. So you had asked me about, we were talking about sick care medicine and how, I really like to tell people that you have a choice today. You can either, go with your insurance or you can either become the empowered, sovereign, proactive scientist of your own health. And it really just comes down to your choice. Do you really want to rely on sick care medicine or do you want to take health into your own hands and learn how to take all these what I call quantum, interventions like peptides and bioregulators and hormone optimization and supplements and all that stuff and do that over the sick care because the system is proven to kill you by the middle of your 60s to late 60s. And if you don't die, you're in agony because you're inflamed, overweight, insulin resistant, and likely on 20, somewhere between 17 and 22 color coded medications.
Ooh, that sounds like a treat.
Yeah. Right? One pill to mask the side effects and symptoms of the other pill. I mean, that's unfortunately where we are. I mean, the number two leading cause of death in the world is doctors practicing on you.
Right.
So you really do want to avoid the system as much as possible. And obviously, the only way you can do that is to become very proactive.
Yeah, and what's sad is that a lot of the things that we know can help you, they don't, insurance doesn't cover either.
Right.
I'm going through a situation right now. I'm getting shockwave therapy on my foot.
Nice.
I had surgery and the bone simply isn't healing, so we're doing
Yep.
shots. Because the FDA hasn't approved or whatever, it's not covered, which is crazy because this is something that could actually fix what's going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like that for everything. I mean, it's the same thing with peptides. I mean, honestly, I have not, and again, knock on wood, because obviously you do need insurance for that life or death critical catastrophic event in your life where,
Sure.
if you don't get airlifted, you're going to die. But I don't, my daughters, my family, I don't go to any doctors and pay anything through insurance. I just pay cash and negotiate. And, when you learn how to do that, you actually will get better rates than insurance will give you. You just have to know how to do it, and it takes, the art of negotiation, the art of the deal. But I don't pay for anything, that I can't pay for myself. And so I avoid, and again, knock on wood that I don't have any catastrophic injuries. um, you know, both myself, my wife, and my daughters have not had any of those. And again, we're blessed, I would say, living righteously or living with right action. But you never know when something is going to happen to you. And so you do have to have that in the background. But honestly, dude, I would never go. I mean, like, I tell my wife all the time, I was like, unless I'm gut shot or bleeding out, or, again, in a catastrophic life or death accident where I have to be sewn back together, I'm not going to a doctor. Like
Right.
my doctors are friends, right? Like I have health optimization doctors that write me scripts for hormones or peptides or stuff like that. But I'm not going to a doctor for any kind of general condition. I'm going to understand my own lab markers, my biomarkers, get my labs done twice a year and go from there. But I'm not putting my health in the hands of a sick industry or a sick care industry who is statistically proven to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast you were on, and a guy named Reagan, and
Yeah, Reagan Archibald is a good friend. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and you guys are talking about a little story here about prostate cancer checking and biopsies, things like that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I had a situation, I don't know, probably 6, 7 years ago, where I was told, my PSA number had gotten elevated. It was time to do biopsies, and first of all, I was
It's
amazed
incredible.
at how
Yeah.
barbaric the biopsies still are. I mean, they
Dude,
go in
all
there through,
PS
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you because you probably have a better story to say, but anything to do with an aging male and the prostate, you do nothing unless you have symptoms that are preventing you from existing in your life because it's statistically proven that if you live beyond 68, you're going to have a mild form of prostate cancer, right? The prostate is a
yeah,
vestigial organ. As we get older, it atrophies, it increases in size. But as you said, the treatment of prostate conditions, because it's not always cancer, they want to tell you it's cancer,
right,
but it's literally an aggravated increasing inside prostate, which is again known as BPH, benign prostate hypertrophy, in almost 90% of men. And again, the men that have prostate cancer are always the ones with A, low testosterone, and B, inflamed because again the inflammation from like having a big belly and just not being insulin just call it insulin resistant is what leads to usually the cancer or the inflammation that occurs down there. And there are outliers in different situations, but I always tell guys, and I've had this conversation with numerous influencers, don't do anything. Like literally live with it. And like I said, if you can't live with it, which means like you can't take a piss, then you're in a different situation because now you're going to have a
yeah,
bacterial buildup and an infection and stuff like that that can lead to other problems that will be far worse. But other than that, if you have to wake up 2 or 3 times a night to take a piss, learn to nap.
yeah.
Because if you go
There you
in, I
go.
mean, listen, if you go in and you let them work on you and they do the green light and, I know all the procedures and the likelihood of them, doing, especially a radical prostatectomy, which is when they remove your prostate, that you're going to be incompetent or have retrograde ejaculation or even worse, completely sexually dysfunctional is very high. But they never tell you that. And I've known so many guys that have gone in and have come out and they can never get an erection again.
Yeah,
These guys are getting penile implants. I mean, all this insanity that they could have avoided if they just didn't listen to the doctor tell them that, well, it might be prostate cancer.
yeah,
We have to do a biopsy. Just so you know, biopsies are a scam because if it is cancerous and you mutate I'm sorry, if you cut an ontological mutation, what do you think happens? It spreads.
yeah.
just exacerbated it. So it's all a scam. I mean, a good friend of mine in California, you probably might know who he is. My God, his name literally just escaped me. Why is this happening to me? Anyway, he's a famous influencer in Southern California. He's 62 years old, and he went through this last year, and he documented the whole thing. And I've had him on my podcast and live streams and stuff, and he's a good friend of mine, and I literally can't even think of his name right now, but it'll come to me as soon as I'm done talking. But he went through all of this, and he came to me 2 years. He went through this, and he came to me about 2 months ago, and he's like, if I had it all to do over again, I would have listened to you, and I would have done nothing
Yeah.
because I've received nothing except suffering, anxiety, worry, doubt. Because like, what am I doing? And it's like, it never affected my state of living or my quality of life ever, but I listened to all of them
Yeah.
and I shouldn't have.
Yep. Well, that was the kind of the way I felt after I went through the biopsy, first of all. And they don't tell you about the side effects from that at
No,
all. No.
no,
And then,
no.
I went through the high tech one, with the ultrasound and
Yeah.
whatever, but it still sucked. But in any case, but what I found out long afterward, though, was that the PSA number tends to rise a lot for ultra marathoners like
Oh yeah,
myself.
because you're inflamed.
Yeah, and the
You're inflamed.
doctors didn't know that, so much. So after all these scares, and they said, "Well, we found a spot," and they wanted to look at it closer. In the end, they said, "Nope, false alarm." After all that, and then I did this reading about how the PSA goes up for somebody who's an ultra marathoner. It's like, well, why the hell didn't my doctor know that? Because they don't take the time to look at a narrow portion of the population that runs ultra marathons.
Clark Bartram. It just came to me. Clark
Yeah,
Bartram is his name, but same thing. You can look him up. His story is like very public now. But yeah, he went through the whole thing. They told him he had a form of prostate cancer at 61 and he was bleeding a little bit, but it wasn't something that was like any more than stage one. And he did all these experimental procedures, went to Germany, had it nuked with like some sort of radio spectrometry. I mean, all the stuff that he did, and it was like nothing.
yeah,
Did absolutely nothing
yeah,
except worried the shit out of him. And like you said, I spent a lot of money and got nothing. And
yep.
nothing has changed.
Yeah, and I've got two friends who've within the last year had prostatectomies, and they're miserable. I mean, it's just the worst
I
thing.
mean,
Yeah,
never do it. If you're a man and you're listening to this podcast, do not do a radical prostatectomy. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care if you listen to this and you make them listen to it. They will lie through their teeth to you and tell you that the side effects and the risk factors are minimal. And Jay Campbell doesn't know what he's talking about. It's a complete lie. Like you said, I mean, they don't even tell you the truth about a biopsy.
yeah. Nope. So, but we're talking about all this negative stuff, though. But you got some positive things you could share, right?
For sure, man.
So peptides or some of the other things. Well, let's talk about some of that good stuff, Jay. Like, what does it take to not age and not go through the lifestyle problems that we all run into, and the healthcare system industry problems?
I mean, it takes a proactive consciousness
Yeah,
100% because you can't do most of the things that we've been talking about, like go to your general practitioner or insurance or family doctor and expect them to help you because they're not. So you have to abandon that, platform or that direction and start researching on your own. And it really starts with understanding, like, do you have a hormone deficiency? Because you can't just start willy-nilly using peptides or bioregulators or anything else until you know you have the foundational principles like attended to. And the foundational principles are, are you an aging man or woman? And again, aging man or woman is getting younger and younger because our environment, as you know, is so toxic, so toxic. All the major cities are toxic, zones, air, water, plastics, the food that we eat. I mean, everything is laden in toxins. Mold toxicity right now, Bill, is so high. It's everywhere. I mean, all these old buildings, all the stuff that's happened since COVID. There's not a lot of general maintenance going on now anymore because companies are running at very thin margins. So you're just in a toxic environment. So you have to know whether or not you have a hormone deficiency. And I would say, and this is my general opinion, but I would say that it's the number of men and women over the age of 35 that have a hormone deficiency is somewhere between 70 and 80%. That's not an exaggeration.
Mm,
It's not identified by general practitioners or insurance doctors. They don't understand this. They're not taught how to monitor this. And again, it goes against their, business principles because why would you want to hormonally optimize someone when you can give them pills and other scripts that make money, a lot more money, and get the person, not attended to, and again, band-aid their symptoms. But if you know you have a testosterone deficiency, and again, this goes for both men and women, and you optimize that either through natural means, which is getting harder and harder to do, or through therapeutic means, which is therapeutic testosterone, which is what I do, and I've been doing it for 24 years. It's very rare that you will get sick. And that's not a lie. I mean, again, the hormonal symphony, which is your endocrine system, your thyroid gland, and your pancreas, those are your holy triune. And all three of those things, when they're optimized, and you can do this very easily through lifestyle and drugs, you will avoid being sick. But so many people are not optimized and they don't know they're not optimized. And so it's like this story of like, well, how do I find out? You know, and when you find out, you can take matters in your own hand. You can get your labs done. There's millions. I mean, literally, no exaggeration now. There's so many different independent labs that you can, essentially it's like going to Amazon and getting a hormone profile done. But again, you have to take this into your own hand and you have to have a reasonable enough amount of information to understand like what you're looking at. It's not hard. I mean, most people are
Right.
like, yeah, if it's red, it's out of range, or you're not probably in the right place. But you can understand your own hormones with 20 to 30 minutes on YouTube, you know,
Right.
just Googling and understanding like how to read a male hormone profile, how to read a female hormone profile. And most of the time, if you search, you're going to get my stuff because I am really good at explaining things to people. But once you do that, and if you are functioning with a hormone deficiency, which again, the great majority of people are, then you can choose to optimize either again through, natural means, which is hard, or through therapeutic testosterone, which is really the biggest tool in the tool belt. Once you do that, now you're in a place where it's like if you want to start using all these exotic things that I talk about, like peptides, growth hormone, bioregulators, small molecule supplements, all these wonderful like mitochondrial optimizing and stimulating things that people talk about in the longevity space, then you're in a place where those are going to work. But you can't be the guy or gal who is a hormonal dysregulated mess who sees Jay Campbell talking about peptides and says, "Oh, I want to buy this peptide, that peptide, this peptide, that peptide," and to start applying them gunshot style, to your situation because it's just not going to work. And that's what happens to most people because they're not educated in the process of like, what do I do? And like I always say, like, first step is, you know, are you fat? Are you inflamed? Are you metabolically dysregulated? Okay, if that's the case, it's probably the truth that you have a hormone deficiency. We have to address that first. Now, in addressing the hormone deficiency, we also have to change our life. We have to start living insulin controlled, which means regulating our carbohydrate consumption. We need to start exercising. We need to lift weights or do some form of bone bearing exercise and resistance training combined with cardiovascular training. And now we also have to look at our sleep hygiene.
Mm.
Are we sleeping 6 to 7 to 8 hours a night? If you do those things along with attempting, or in the process of getting your hormones optimized, then all the other nice things like mitochondrial optimizing supplements and peptides and bioregulators and all these amazing things that people were talking about, that's when those things really move the needle because now you have the foundational, basics or precepts dialed in enough that you can take all these other things. But too many people, especially today, do everything backwards. And they
Right.
start jumping into peptides or jumping into bioregulators, and they don't even know if they have a hormone deficiency, and they've got 40 pounds in their belly, or vice versa, 40 pounds in their ass and their hips if they're women. And it's just like you're doing everything wrong. And, unfortunately, Bill, I always say this, it's harder and harder to get good information because the signal to noise ratio on the internet now is mostly noise and very minimal signal. 25 years ago, when I first started out on the internet, in the late 90s, early 2000s, like there was no noise. It was pure signal. If you were surfing, AOL or Prodigy or CompuServe or their infancy, early days of the internet, everything that
Right.
was there was smart people crowdsourcing smart information and resources. Whereas nowadays it's Reddit.
Yeah.
And there can't be more worthless garbage, news or information than Reddit. Like Reddit is just literally a joke of a place where a bunch of people that know nothing, congregate and tell everybody that nobody else knows anything either. So it's just gotten to a point where the signal to noise ratio on the internet is very, very difficult for people, especially younger people, because they always say to me like, well, who do I trust? who do I listen to? There's so many people out there talking, and I'm like, it's
Oh yeah.
hard because most people are giving you bad information.
Right.
They're
No,
not doers. They,
no,
they, they
it's
haven't
crazy
done
what's that.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, most people today literally, I mean, let's just use the peptides, right? We can talk all we want about peptides, but right now there are more people claiming to be peptide experts on the internet than there are people actually using peptides. That's not a joke. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, that's happened in the last 6 months. And just for the audience's awareness, I've literally been using therapeutic peptides since 2004.
Okay.
Okay. 2004. So I've 21 years of experience of using peptides. And I don't say that to brag or from a place of ego, but just from a place of awareness. So people understand that when I talk about these substances, I have a very deep personal and experiential use background. The average person online right now today talking about peptides has 6 months. And that's not an exaggeration. These
Yeah.
people are absolutely full of shit, and they know nothing. And they literally listen to people like me, and there's others, and regurgitate what we say and actually claim to be peptide experts. I mean, I have people who literally listen to my podcasts or buy my courses who go on and then, like, how would I say it, plagiarize my content
Right, right.
and send it out to other people. I mean, it's insane with AI, as you know. I mean,
Oh yeah.
AI, they just use that and rip and plagiarize and just imitate and duplicate. And it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen, Bill. I mean, and by the way, this has all happened in the last 2 years
Right.
as AI has proliferated and exploded into the marketplace. But that's the biggest problem is that people, who are truly, well intentioned and they want to make a change and they want to improve their life, they don't know where to go.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing how believable AI is becoming here. I've noticed even in the last few weeks,
It's insane.
um, they had a fake interview with Nikola Jokic of the
Yeah,
Nuggets, and one with
I
Austin
saw that
Matthews.
too.
Yeah,
I
and
saw
Austin
that too.
Matthews
Did
of
you see
Maple
the one
Leafs.
with Trump? Did you see the deep fake with Trump that's from
No,
like three
no,
days ago? Oh my God, dude. It's
yeah.
insane. But that's what's so crazy is like I was just at a giant conference in Austin, and I'll be at Dave Asprey's. I'm speaking on peptides the next week in Austin again.
Oh, cool.
And I was just at the Health Optimization Summit about a month ago. And all the influencers, subject matter experts that were there, and we were hanging out talking to each other. You know what our main topic of conversation was? Was who of the people that we would be working with day to day in that, time that we were all together in that little
Right.
bubble was actually writing back to us without using AI. Think about that.
Wow.
The average person today, this is how insane our world is. I mean, as I say, Earth is on the short bus, I'd say. Our shelf life can't be much longer because the machines are going to replace us. But most people today under the age of 30, I swear to God, Bill, I know this is not me and you because our age group doesn't do this, but they are literally using AI to respond.
Man.
They don't respond to emails or text messages. They literally use AI. So they speak it into existence. AI respond. Respond to Sarah, respond to Joey.
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane.
that's
I mean, I
sick.
mean,
Yeah.
when you do that, you're not using your brain.
No.
You're outsourcing your brain power and your critical thinking and discernment to a machine. It's insane.
That
I
that that is
mean,
wild.
it's so outlandish. I'll give you another thing that I learned when I was in Austin that week. So Austin, have you been to Austin recently?
No.
Dude, you're not going to believe this. They have self-driving cars everywhere in Austin. It's like the biggest test in the United States of self-driving cars.
Really?
Dude, it is the craziest thing. So I'm staying at the Fairmont, which is where the host hotel was. The convention was like, half a mile away. I forget the name of the place. But I'm sitting there with Hunter, my business partner. We're standing there waiting on an Uber, and this thing comes up. And I thought it was one of those Google mapping cars, because they're just driving around
Yeah.
constantly doing the navigation, and there's no
Right.
one in the car. And these young kids, because the young people trust the AI, dude. They, to
Yeah.
them, it's great. They get in there and they take off, and Hunter looks at me, and I look at him, and I don't even have to say it. He goes, "You know that you and I are not getting into any of those." And I'm like, "Hell no, dude!
Nope.
Like, who trusts a self-driving car? The kids
Uh-uh.
do.
Yeah,
The
right.
kids do. They really do. They have no idea that the machine could literally just lock the doors, drive 190 miles an hour and crash into another car. And what are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
They
Exactly.
don't think like that. Now,
Mm-mm.
that's not fear mongering. This is reality. We are literally in a world where the average person under the age of 30 doesn't think.
Yeah,
They outsource their thinking.
that's scary shit.
It is, dude. I mean, it really is. I mean, we really are in an Orwellian nightmare at this
Yeah,
point. And you just said it. AI is proliferating and accelerating at geometric rates and speeds. I mean,
yeah,
what happens 2 years ago to now is it's unprecedented. I mean, literally, I now when I look at emails, the first thing I look is that person actually taking the time to respond to me?
yeah. If I hadn't thought of that. I mean,
Or are they using
yeah,
AI? Because, dude, you know this. I don't know if you use Apple or PC, whatever, but as soon as you hit respond, look what happens when you drop your cursor. The AI pops up
yeah,
automatically in
yeah.
all the software
To
and
give me
gives you the
suggestions,
answers.
right? Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
if
just
you're brain
recently
dead,
I made a flyer for the American Heroes run with AI. I just tried it because
sure,
I'm not a graphic artist,
sure,
whatever.
sure, sure. It
And
probably did an amazing job.
it did. I was amazed. Made a few tweaks and boom, I sent it off to go get printed. It's like, holy
See,
crap, that
that's
was
when it's
insane.
okay.
Yeah.
But when a human being asks you a question and you don't even have the common decency to use your brain to respond, that's when things go south. And
Yeah.
that's what's happening now. Very truthfully, that's what's happening now. I mean,
Yeah.
again, all you have to do is big picture think about what this means. It means that people under the age of 30 that are the primary users of AI will not have brains in 5 years. They
Yeah.
won't. What would be the purpose of having a brain? It'll be a vestigial organ.
Yeah.
Let the machine think for me.
Yeah.
I mean, again, dude, our generation, we're not getting in a self-driving car.
Right. Nope.
These kids don't even think.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, I watched that so many times, and not a single person, I would say, over the age of 30 got in those, and all the kids under 30, they don't even, it's not even a hesitation.
Wow.
Why would the machine do anything bad to me? I mean, they believe the machines are, benign.
Well, we watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. We saw that computer go rogue, right?
We watched Skynet and Terminators.
Yeah.
How do they not know what is coming? This has been like this giant foreboding. And I don't want to make the show a conspiracy theory, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like, you have to not understand what's happening by just watching AI now.
Right.
I mean, if a kid, Bill, goes like this, blah, 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 and puts the phone down and then barely reads, because they can barely read now too, right? Because the voice comes in versus the
Yeah.
word.
Right.
So I mean, it doesn't forebode well for the future of humanity, dude. It
No.
doesn't.
So I thought
You
you were
know,
going to say when you were in Austin, you guys stood around and said, how many of these young people are we going to even believe out? Who can we work with who actually is talking with facts in their heads?
Bill, I mean, again, we could go so deep on this. I mean, I have two daughters that are 15 and 17, and I regulate their technology use. I mean, in this house, it's totally different. None of that. But I mean, dude, they're almost unhirable.
Yeah.
In my companies now today, like we made an actually decision 2 weeks ago that we will not hire anyone under the age of 30 for nothing. Zero.
Mm.
We will not hire customer service because we hired three of them and they've all quit within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
It's a whole nother issue. Yeah.
they all had to, like, I mean, think about this generations of people. They want to be stood behind and told what to do. They don't want autonomy. They want to be micromanaged and supervised. And then when they're
Hmm.
not supervised and micromanaged, they're like, what's going on? I need more attention.
Right.
It's like, what? I think
uh,
it's COVID. I think there was this massive dystopian psychological terror that gripped the world for 3 or 4 years. And I think now a lot of the people that went through that and had this brainwashing and stuff to their brain, I think their minds are so scrambled or so fear-based or so paralyzed with fear and anxiety that they want to be watched.
mm,
They want to be told what to do. They want to be supervised. They want to have somebody holding their hands, do this, do that. It's insane. It's literally insane. But I mean, you're
yeah.
right. I mean, what does the future hold?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how we're going to age into this future here anyway.
I
Yeah.
mean, man,
No,
we're
it's
going to
true,
age
man.
on communes and farms because I think that people like us that aren't going to like adopt AI and get sucked into that call it the hive mind cyborg matrix. we'll be living, in resident communities or, whatever you want to call it, ecosystems of people like us, that are using peptides and are using their minds and are critically thinking and discerning. It's crazy, dude. I mean, you said it. I mean, like every day I wake up and I see more things about AI and I'm like, wow. I mean, there are good
Yeah.
things.
Right.
There are good things that AI can do, but when you start outsourcing your brain power, you know what I mean? For things that you should handle, that's when it gets really risky.
Yeah.
Because like for example, like my business partner today, we just filmed 4 hours of a course today, and he's going to use AI to break those into modules. But we still
Hmm.
did all the heavy lifting.
Right. Right.
Him and I went through, we created a slide deck. We used AI to create the slide deck, and then we refined it. And then we, boom, 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 went through it, talked, put the information out there. And then we'll use AI to break it up into modules. Right. But we're
Yeah.
not using AI to think for us. It's just literally doing busy work.
Yeah.
It's doing clerical work. That's when it's okay. In my opinion, that's when it's okay. But when you, again, outsource your brain power and your critical thinking skills to the AI, that's when you have to really look at it and say, wait a minute.
Yeah. Nope. Totally. I mean, I hate to be a teacher these days and try to look at students' work and trying to
Yeah.
decide what was written and what was actually
Can you
created by
imagine?
AI. Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's what supposedly. So my business partner Hunter's his brother's a freshman at NC State. And he's a football player. He's a star, scholarship linebacker. And by the way, they all get paid now.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
So NAIL. But I mean, it's so insane. Like he tells us, like, because I just went to his wedding, not his wedding, but one of his brother's weddings in North Carolina 2 weeks ago, and we were just asking him questions. What is it like on college campuses nowadays? They don't even have books. They don't
No,
have
they don't.
textbooks.
Yeah.
So he was just like, dude, you can't even believe it. He's like, most people just go to class and they have like a recording thing there and they're just recording it. And then they use AI to like print it out. And then they use AI to scan it and say, give me the bullet points or whatever. And they use that and send it in. And so basically, most of the teachers or professors, they just have to become professional at like knowing who's using AI completely
Right.
and who isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's mind blowing. Man.
Meanwhile, you and I use the Dewey Decimal System in the card catalog to get information.
Oh, boy. How many people listening to this even know what those are? Yeah. That's
It's
great.
incredible, man.
Yeah.
Literally incredible.
All right. So Jay, somebody has not basically they have not put jet fuel into a Ford Pinto. They've
Right.
gotten their hormones because we're in
Yep.
this microwave society. People want instant things, but people actually took the time to get their hormones straight, and then they want to look at things like peptides and the other things that you can really help people with there.
Yes.
What does that look like? What does that do for people? Why should people consider all that?
Yeah. So I mean, they're amazing. So I mean, I kind of like bucket peptides, right? So I'll say like you have peptides for oh nice, there's your
Yep,
cat.
this is
You have
Judge. Yep.
peptides for fat loss and muscle gain. You have peptides for cognition. You have peptides for healing. You have peptides for longevity. And then maybe the last ones you have peptides for sickness, disease, autoimmune issues. And so I kind of classify them in those ways for people to really better understand them. But let's just start with fat loss because the majority of people are overweight or insulin resistant. You've got like growth hormone agonist peptides and mitochondrial optimizing peptides. So two separate paths, but both essentially doing the same thing. Starting with the growth hormone agonist peptides, there's three that I talk about. Testosterone, which is literally an FDA approved drug for men that have HIV. They get a disease or a condition when they have HIV for a long time called lipodystrophy. And lipodystrophy is like fat that gathers around the center mass. So it's like really hard, congealed visceral fat. Testosterone cuts through that like a knife through butter. So a man who's not doesn't have that condition but has too much belly fat can use that peptide, inject it right into the area, and it tears through visceral fat. So it's pretty amazing in getting rid of belly fat. And then there's two other to mention, ipamorelin, which is probably the most well-known growth hormone agonist peptides. It's a growth hormone releasing peptide or GHRP, and it has this amazing ability to not disturb the body's natural endogenous function of growth hormone. So if you take it once, twice, three times a day, a lot of people take it at night before they go to bed. They wake up in the morning, and then some people, if they're super anal retentive, they'll take it after training. And again, you have to inject it with an insulin needle. Increases fat loss. It improves well-being. It improves skin elasticity, improves deeper sleep, polyphasic sleep. It does a lot of cool things The other one would be that I really like that a lot of people use now is called CJC 1295. And that's just a really strong growth hormone agonist
Mm.
peptide for just increasing pulsatile growth hormone release. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people, especially in my community, they don't speak about this enough. Depending on your age, if you don't have any natural growth hormone production, and again, most people by the age of 55, I'm 54, they start really declining or cessating with IGF-1, which is interstitial growth fluid, which is really what is the measure of growth hormone in the body. If you don't have any natural production, Bill, using peptides that stimulate it are really not going to be beneficial because how can you stimulate something that doesn't exist? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
you don't hear people talk about this enough, but they should. And in this case, in these type of situations, those people should be using growth hormone and not growth hormone agonist peptides because it's just not going to work as well. If you talked about growth hormone 5 or 6 years ago, they'd be like, nobody can do that. They can't afford it. It's so expensive. That's all changed because since COVID, compound pharmacies and offshore pharmacies around the world sell growth hormone pens that look like this, okay, to pretty much anybody in the biohacking longevity community, and they're not expensive. And
Yeah.
you can take 1 to 1.5 IUs of this in the morning when you wake up, or even when you go to bed at night. Again, if you're 40, 50, 60, aging, and it's the fountain of youth. I mean, this is a very amazing product combined with therapeutic testosterone. You can't get sick. You're never going to get ill. You'll be lean. You'll be muscular. Again, provided you have all the other things that we talked about dialed in. But this is a very, very profound, molecularly life-altering agent. But again, it's not technically a peptide. It's just growth hormone. But again, you can get it. It's, made by pharmaceutical companies. That one that I just showed you is made by Pfizer. It's called genotropin, and it's the strongest growth hormone in the world. And again, it comes in a pen. It's very simple to use. You just twist it and reconstitute it and put a tap on it, and boom, you have like 6 weeks worth of injections. You can travel with it. You can put it in an insulin cooler, carry it around with you. But those would be your growth hormone agonist peptides plus growth hormone. Moving into like healing, most people on this that listen to your show probably know what BPC 157 is or TB 500 because those are the two most well-known peptides for healing. BPC stands for body protective compound, and then TB 500 is thymosin beta. BPC increases red blood cell formation and tissue accretion, and thymosin beta of TB 500 increases, or not increases, but suppresses systemic inflammation. So if
Mm.
you tear a joint, tear a tendon, get a really bad strain or a sprain, if you inject BPC and TB 500 into the origin or as close to the origin of the injury as possible, you'll literally heal 7 to 10 times faster. Okay. People call it the Wolverine healing stack because it really does heal like Wolverine. Like, again, if you have a serious injury, not a bone break, because bone breaks are a little bit different, but a soft tissue injury, it will heal you 7 to 10 times faster. And all you have to do is inject both of them together once a day for, 2 or 3 weeks. The other ones to talk about that are pretty important and a lot of people use would be thymosin alpha 1 or TA1. That's an immunomodulating peptide. So if you get sick, you inject that like during you're getting sick, before you're getting sick. I have been using that peptide since 2009. Whenever I travel the world or I travel transcontinental, I inject before I get on the plane and I inject when I get off. And that keeps my immunity like super high. I can't get COVID. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to get a sinus infection. It's pretty amazing peptide. The other two that I would mention would be by the way, that's an FDA approved peptide also. And then the other two are LL37, which is an antimicrobial, antipathogenic, and antibacterial. That's when as you get really sick and you've got like a sinus, plug, you can't breathe, you're just really under the weather. You would take that, and that increases immunity and kills whatever, knocks whatever is out in your body immediately. There's one other one called
Mm.
vasointestinal peptide, and that's VIP. And that's for people that have completely blocked airways. So that's like comorbid, really old, poor health, people with COPD, shit like that, long-term smokers. You can
Yeah.
give them that and it just automatically clears the airway. If they would have given people who died when they were intubating them during the COVID farce, no one would have died because it literally opens the airway. But so, both of those peptides are just kind of, you keep them in reserve if you have a serious situation, or you have an elderly person in your house who's really infirmed and really sick and comorbid, you could use those for them. Okay, so that's fat loss, that's healing.
Yeah, so just
Cognition.
wanted to interrupt you for 1 second, Jay. Are
Sure.
these things that you could like keep in your medicine cabinet, for instance, and have ready for
100%.
these situations? Okay, good. Because
Yeah, no.
yeah,
So
obviously people
as long
keep.
as they're not, as long as they're not reconstituted,
Yeah,
and even if they are reconstituted, what that means is you put bacterial static water in the vial and you've
yeah.
made it active, you can still leave it in your fridge and it keeps efficacy up to, probably 2 years. I mean, if you get a peptide, it's 99.9% efficacious when you get it, and you leave it in your refrigerator, cold, reconstituted for 2 years, and you go inject it, you're probably still going to get 75 to 80% of the efficacy.
Hmm. All
Right.
right.
So over those 2 years, you've lost some bioavailability, but it still works. It just over time you lose a little bit of the efficacy and stuff like that. But it's still fine as long as it's not been like exposed to high temperatures or, high gradient or incandescent light, it's fine.
Yeah.
And
All
then if
right.
you haven't reconstituted it and it's just sitting in like a cool, dry drawer or something like that, it's good forever.
Oh, very
No
cool.
one will say that it's good forever, but in truth, those things are freeze dried, and the way they're prepared, once they're reconstituted, then they become active, but you can keep them in a cool, dry place for a long time.
All right. Nice. Okay.
Okay. Keep going. Let me see. So cognitive peptides, there's a bunch now. As I always say, testosterone is the biggest dopamine signaling molecule in the world. So you're going to feel much more improved cognition, eliminate depression if you optimize your hormones, and you'll feel that much more so than you will if you use like a nootropic or cognitive restoring peptide. But the three peptides that I talk about that are worth mentioning are dihexa. Both of these, by the way, or I'm sorry, all three of these peptides can be intranasally, a nasal mist or snorted, or you can take them orally, or you can inject them. And
Hmm.
again, every peptide ever created, injection is the greatest delivery system, and because it's the highest impact, because it crosses the blood-brain barrier the fastest and it gets into portal circulation the fastest when you inject something. So you're always going to have injection as the highest impact. Next, depending on the size of the peptide or the size of the molecule, would be intranasal, because again, that will cross the blood-brain barrier fastest. And then your third option is usually oral. Now, the cool thing, Bill, is that the technologies on oral delivery systems are dramatically improving. My company, which I'm rocking my brand here today, BioLongevity Labs, we're in talks with like all of the leading call them formulation and delivery system, patented delivery system technologies that are out there that are improving the usage of, say, oral agents and oral molecules to cross the blood-brain barrier. So there's a lot of cool new technology coming, but for now, it's mostly like a buccal strip. So it's like just like a piece of like a tape, like a thin membrane type of tape, and that has the peptide in it. You put it on your tongue and you just let it sit there for 10 seconds, or it's just a capsule, which is obviously ages old, and
Yeah.
you swallow it. But again, oral normally, and even now, is the least absorbable delivery system.
Hmm.
So it has to be like a specific type of peptide that you're going to get efficacy. And most of the oral peptides work on the gut.
Yeah.
So you obviously you're going to get, a good effect because it's going to go through the gut. And then once it gets into the small and large intestine, it's not effective anymore. So whatever you have going on in the gut, which a lot of people in America have gut issues,
Right.
you can get value from that. And my company sells a lot of products. We actually have a product called BioGut Pro. It has 6 peptides in it. So when you take it, it is like a kitchen sink peptide for cleansing, whatever pathogenic stuff, SIBO, celiac, leaky gut syndrome, all these different things that people have for their gut. We have a product that will cure it. And when I say it'll cure it, like literally in 10 days, you'll be healed. That's how strong it is. I mean, again, assuming you
Wow.
change your lifestyle and you eat right and you do all the things you're supposed to do. And again, most people don't, Bill. I mean, we live in America. Everybody wants an easy button. Nobody wants to change their lifestyle. They want to take the magic bullet peptide they think is going to fix them, but they don't want
Right.
to change their life, and they don't want to change their eating habits or their exercise habits or anything like that. And I always tell people, like, again, if you don't change your lifestyle, none of these things are going to do shit.
No.
And if you don't optimize your hormones or at least get on the path of doing it, the effects that you're going to get compared to somebody who is optimized is going to be like 20%,
Right.
versus somebody who is optimized, who's going to get like all the benefits that somebody like me talks about all the time, because you will see benefit with some of these products, and some of them are miracle type products. I mean, I get testimonials every day from people, that had autoimmune conditions that were injured from the vax, and they, take our vaccine. We have a vaccine protocol for people with peptides and bioregulators, and they take it and they get 90% of their immunity back. takes like 4 to 6 weeks of heavy dosing and doing everything right, but it works. So, I mean, it's just, I could keep going if you want. There's other peptides for longevity. I'll mention a couple of those. Epitalon and thymolin. So
Yeah.
epitalon is a peptide. It's oral. It's also an oral. It's also injectable, but oral is just as effective. That stops the rate of telomerase expression. So as we get older, as you know, telomerase is the enzyme responsible for shortening the telomeres or lengthening the telomeres. If you take epitalon for 10 days in a row, twice a year, and you're in your 40s or 50s, it has scientific evidence and studies and peer review from Russia and Bulgaria that show that it actually improves the utilization of telomerase and suppresses the shortening of the telomeres. So essentially, effectively, it's increasing your biological age value or mean because it's blocking the things that are supposed to make you age. So that's a really, really powerful bioregulator. It's people call it a bioregulator peptide. It's kind of a bioregulator. And then the other thing that people take with that also is pretty powerful is called thymolin. And thymolin is kind of a thymus gland
Right.
bioregulator, tissue bioregulator. And obviously, the thymus gland, as we get older, stops working. And it's really the part of the biological system functionality in your body that controls your immunity. As your thymus gland shrinks and becomes less and less important, you become much more open to disease and sickness and whatever else because your body just doesn't have really powerful self-regulating immunity. So if you use thymolin and you use epitalon together for like 20 days a year, twice a year, depending on your age, it's scientifically proven to lower your biological age.
Wow. Well, that's
They're all amazing. I mean, they really are
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, that's quite the menu right there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, let's step back for just a second, and thank you for going through all those because
Sure.
those are amazing. So somebody goes back and optimizes their hormones to start
Yep.
with, and
Yep.
that is like injectable testosterone, or what's the protocol there?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So there's a lot of ways to get therapeutic testosterone in the body. The only two that is Jay Campbell approved, on stamp, is injectable and then transscrotal. And transscrotal means that you're putting a cream on the base of your scrotum. And the reason you put it at the base of your scrotum is the scrotum is 8 times more permeable than any other skin location on the body. So it's very, very thin, permeous skin. So if you put it's basically called a 200 milligrams per milliliter testosterone cream at the base of the scrotum, the absorption is through the roof and it's very fast acting, the cream. So you can basically do it once or twice a day. Some men are what are called hyper excretors with the cream. And that means that they break down, blow through it in like 3 to 4 hours.
Hmm.
Whereas other guys like me take 8 to 10 hours. So, to get through it. So basically, I just need to do when I'm not using cream now, I'm using injections. But when I did use cream, which I did for about 6 years, I just did it 1 time a day. Some guys who are hyper excretors and blow through it need to apply it a second time.
All right.
Now that would be, option one, and then option 1A or even option 1A would be the transcranial would be injectable. Now, the most important thing about injectable is you have to do it at a frequency that mimics the body's natural production. So once a week shots are terrible. And the reason that is because the half-life of the injectable testosterone is usually somewhere between 36 and 72 hours.
Hmm.
And so you're like this. And then at 72 hours or
You're
even
you're
sooner,
you're
you're like this.
you're
Boom.
peaking and downhill, right?
So you want to maintain like a nadir. So I always tell guys, like, whatever your delivery system is, it's got to be like this.
Yeah.
So there's no ups, no downs. It's just constant. So the best way to do that is either daily, which most people are not anal or retentive enough to inject every day. So the happy medium is every other day.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Right.
most men and women, by the way, and we can talk about women too, but women inject testosterone too. I mean, it's every other day. So most people do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And again, it's a micro dose. Like everything that I recommend in life, start low, go slow.
Yeah.
As Tim Ferriss said, the difference between a pill and a poison is always the dosage. You got to start
Right.
low
Yep.
and you have to assess your unique tolerance, your biochemical individuality. We're all N of one. What might work for you might not work for me, and vice versa. And then you basically go from where, you assess how you feel, what kind of effects you get. But when you do this right, and again, through those two delivery system means, they're very rarely side effects. I mean,
Yeah.
the side effects would be maybe a tiny little local reaction at the injection site. I mean, you can inject here, glutes, even in the belly, a lot of guys inject until the subcutaneous fat around the belly button. So, I mean, it just depends on like where it's convenient for you to inject and
Yeah.
obviously where you're going to continue to do it. But you have so many places to rotate. I mean, I've been injecting testosterone for 24 years, right? So it's like, it becomes like brushing your teeth. Most people initially, when they inject testosterone, have a phobia of needles. But like I said, after you do it once or twice, it's like simple,
Get over it. Yep.
And well, here's the other thing that's amazing is that when I first started doing this 24 years ago, the solutions that were in testosterone were I mean, they were so thick and they were garbage seed oils and they wouldn't go through a very small gauge needle. You had to use a pretty big needle. I mean,
Mm.
not a harpoon, but close to it. And so you would
Right.
you would literally create scar tissue injecting testosterone 25
Oof.
years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays you're using like a 30 to 31 gauge insulin needle. The formulations are an MCT oil or palmitic acid, and they're butter. I mean, it's like done. No,
Yeah.
no scar tissue, no pain. There's no bleeding. You don't even have to wipe yourself with like a hygienic alcohol wipe. I mean, it's just boom, you go. If you travel around the world like I do, you've got like a month of travel, you've got like 15 preloaded testosterone, shots in your plastic bag, and they're all wrapped around with a rubber band or something like that. And it's very simple to do it. But those are the two premier formats of testosterone. There's a lot of other bullshit on the market. They give people oral capsules. The newest brand is called Kyzatrix. Doesn't work. Don't let anybody tell you it does. It will never optimize you. It might take you from 150 like low to 250, which would be normal,
Yeah.
in the range. And obviously the medical industrial complex will say, see, we got you into the normal range, but you'll never feel good on that.
Right. Right.
To get to feel good, those two formats are the only ways to do that. And honestly, what does feel good mean? Feel good means when you're free testosterone, not your total. Your total is a meaningless number.
Right.
Total testosterone is bound in the body and inaccessible. It's not usable. The free is the only number that matters. And Bill, I swear to God, I'm not kidding you. This 90% of doctors don't even know the difference between the two, and they don't measure the free.
Right.
And they measure the total and they'll see a guy with 275 and they'll be like, oh, you're great. You're fine. Meanwhile, the guy's dying.
Yeah.
He has every symptom of testosterone deficiency. But free testosterone, an optimal level of free testosterone, and again, there's different labs, but the main labs are LabCorp and Quest,
Right.
and they measure in picograms per deciliter. If you have a free testosterone of 35 or higher, you should feel good. Do you know what the average free testosterone of men in the United States is?
Bet it's less than
11.
half of that. Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
11.
Yep.
11. I just talked to a guy the other day, is very, very successful, prominent A-list, not a celebrity, but a Wall Streeter. And he's functioning with a 7. And he's just yammering about all these peptides he wants to use. And
Right.
he got done talking. I said, are you done? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you done yammering? Bro, listen to me very closely. You have no testosterone in your body. It doesn't fucking matter what peptide you take.
Right.
You don't have any testosterone. Do you understand? Well, my doctor said that I'm lower than average, but that I didn't need testosterone. I said, dude, your doctor is a quack and a moron. And if you don't listen to me, you have no chance of ever feeling better.
Right.
Literally. I mean, I tell these guys all the time. And as you know, a lot of them are just fear based about testosterone. Oh, but if I take testosterone, I got to be on it forever. It's like, dude, you don't have any testosterone. You don't
Right.
have any option right now. You don't even realize how shitty you feel because you have none. And this guy's like a hard charging Wall Street executive person, he's a captain of industry type. And I literally just kept telling him, I said, just listen to me, bro. In 1 month, if you do what I say, you will come back to me and say, oh my God, you saved my life. You changed my life. And I've had thousands of people tell me that in the last 2 decades, thousands, because it happens every single time. I've never seen a single man who went on testosterone. And again, with the caveat of doing it right, which is a very minimal percentage of people, because most guys go with doctors that don't know what they're doing,
Yeah.
who've ever come back and said it was not life altering. And in fact, most of them look at their life as before and after.
Yeah.
That's how profound the change is. But again, you got to do it right. You cannot go to some garden variety tea mill, I call them a windmill clinic, who puts you on 10 different things and then says, we'll see you in 2 months. And then you're just whacked out of your mind.
Yeah.
You have no idea what is doing what. You have no way to measure what is creating what, symphony or pattern in your body. I mean, it's just, it's medicine. They just want to make money on you. You're just a statistic to them.
Absolutely.
It's insane what I see. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it never, what's the word I want to say? I'm never surprised when I see insanity in the medical industrial complex when it comes to hormones
Right.
because they just put them on everything. If you're just a normal guy and you don't understand it, but you know that, you watch one of my videos or you watch this podcast and you're like, I got my labs done and I have low testosterone. And then you go to one of these guys and they say, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. You come out of there thinking you're going to spend a couple $100 a month to get testosterone and you have a bill for $3,500.
Mm.
And you're like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
But that's what these guys do. They put you on this, and then you have no idea what is doing what in your body.
Right.
It's really
Well,
simple. If you
y-
start on testosterone, Bill, and you're not caring about whether or not you have kids, you're taking testosterone, nothing else.
yeah.
You can take SDHEA or vitamin D3 or pregnenolone or any of these things if you have corresponding levels that indicate that you have a clinical deficiency, not because the doctor wants to put you on these things. But that's what most of these people do. And then they don't understand. And then, like I said, 6 weeks in, they're like, I feel like shit.
Right.
And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to withdraw. I don't know if it's my dosage. I don't know if it's this pill, that pill. I mean, it's insane
Yeah.
how
Well, then
crazy the
also you have
hormone
the
optimization.
hucksters out there like baseball star Frank Thomas who wants to sell you Nugenics, right?
Don't forget Doug Flutie.
Yeah, Doug Flutie, right?
Dude, every time I see that, I mean, every time I go to and I don't go to them very often, but when I go into like a vitamin shop, or even there's a GNC. Actually, the GNC by my house is closed. I mean, all the retailers are going under, but I would see those guys in that giant pop up of Frank Thomas. And
Right.
it's just like, God, how much did they pay these guys to say that nonsense? You know?
Amazing. So if somebody starts on testosterone and they take their free testosterone number from point A to point B,
Yeah.
once they get to point B, is there like a maintenance that they need to do with that to make sure it doesn't go back down?
Yeah. I mean, so it's a good question. So, I mean, basically, a testosterone dose that you're going to take for life to maintain feeling optimal and well is somewhere going to be for most people, and there's outliers, but it's somewhere between 100 and 200 milligrams a week. And that's injectable. If you're taking the cream, the dosage and the half-life, the half-life of the cream is obviously way faster. So the dosage is higher, but it's not comparative, but it's similar because it's like 200 milligrams per milliliter of cream versus a injectable, what do you call it? Cypionate or ananthate, which is an MCT oil, again, very high grade oil, very thin, very permeous. That's also 200 milligrams per milliliter. So if you're injecting again optimally 3 times a week versus putting it on your balls every morning, you're going to get somewhere between active ingredient of 100 to 200 milligrams a week of testosterone injectable, and you're going to get somewhere between 400 and 600 of the cream. And that is going to keep you at a stable, call it again 35 to 45 or even 45 to 50 free testosterone level forever.
Right.
And that's where you're going to feel really good. You're going to have high well-being, good sex drive. You're very tactical and surgical in your thought processes. Obviously, your dopamine signaling is boosted. You just feel good. I mean, honestly, when you're optimized on testosterone like I am, your energy is never ending. I mean,
Right.
you don't get tired. You don't feel like you have to take a nap in the middle of the day. You got time and energy to play with your kids or to do something at night after you've had a long business day or a long creation content day or whatever you're in. You just always have the energy to do something. You're not like coming home like most guys and you're dead.
Yeah.
I mean, most guys come home and they open a six pack. They're dead.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
knock the edge off. I got to get lit or drunk or buzzed or whatever so I can actually go to sleep tonight because my body is destitute because I have no testosterone.
Right.
So it's like this, my energy, and obviously I'm a pretty energetic person, but this is the result of my testosterone being optimized. And most men who are optimized on testosterone have this kind of never ending energy, and it's like on command. It's always
Nice.
accessible to you.
Right.
And like I said, that there's nothing to fear when you do this right. And obviously, I know how to teach people how to do this right. And thankfully, there's a lot of doctors that have learned from me. It's life changing. And by the way, because we haven't mentioned it, we should say this. It's more life changing in women than it is men. Why is that, Bill? Because when women hit perimenopause,
Right.
And postmenopause, they have no hormones. When a woman is, you talk about prostate, cancer and prostate issues being quackery. When a woman has a hysterectomy, worst possible thing ever, that's chemical castration.
Yeah.
They literally tell the woman, oh, your ovaries or your uterus doesn't work. We're going to cut it out. As soon as that happens, if they do not go on hormone optimization therapy, those women are done. They have no desire. They have no estrogen. See, this is what people don't understand. And again, most doctors don't understand this. You don't have to give a woman estrogen when she gets older to maintain her femininity. You give her testosterone because testosterone cleaves into estrogen. It's
Right.
insanity what I see in the female hormone optimization space. The average doctor doesn't give women testosterone. Think about how insane this is. They give them progesterone and estradiol because they're wholly ignorant of what testosterone does in the bloodstream. Testosterone cleaves through the aromatase enzyme into estradiol, which then becomes estrogen.
Right.
Just so you understand and your listeners understand, because this is so misunderstood, estrogen is what provides the beneficial effect at the tissues. It's not testosterone.
Right.
That's why we never block estrogen if we're men, and nor should we ever block it in women. And they block estrogen all the time in women who have breast, or what do you call it, estrogen mediated breast cancer, which by the way is also misunderstood. But you can't block estrogen because if we block estrogen, we don't get any of the beneficial effects of testosterone at the tissues. Because estrogen is what confers protection to the brain, to the heart, to the bone mineral density, to the skin, and to all of our sexual function. So estrogen, I always have this lecture, estrogen is actually more important than testosterone is. But people are so confused because they've heard so many people say, oh no, we want our testosterone high and our estrogen low. It's the exact opposite. We want our estrogen to fall to its natural genetic level based on how much testosterone we're given weekly from a therapeutic standpoint. So you never block estrogen. And again, all you have to do, I've experimented with this with my own wife who's perimenopausal. She's not full postmenopausal yet. She's 53, is give a woman enough testosterone weekly so that the testosterone becomes estrogen. And then they function amazingly. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, a 50-plus-year-old woman can be just as sexually functional, just as estrogenic, just as feminine as her 20 plus or 15 to 25-year-old self. They just have to understand how to modulate their hormones. And I swear to God, 95% of doctors that work with women don't know how to do it. Do you have
Yeah.
any idea how many women email me daily between my social media now? Because I've been talking a lot about women's hormones for like the last 8 months. It's just been this new thing.
Yeah.
Messaging me saying, hey, my doctor won't give me testosterone. And I literally am just like, I don't know what to do. I'm not a doctor. I can't write a script for you. I mean, I have people I recommend, but it's just out of control how broken it is. I mean, it's broken for men. It's worse for women because the women are afraid of writing scripts for testosterone because of the WHI thing that happened back in the early 2000s, where they were giving women like equine
Premarin,
estrogen
was it?
supplements. Yeah, it was called the WHI study, and it was
Yeah.
actually flawed, and it was full of
Right.
bad data, and it completely decimated the women's hormone optimization like world for doctors because they became afraid of giving women estrogen and testosterone. And
Yeah.
so now we're still in that age where most women who work with elderly doctors, let's just say doctors over 60, which there are many gynecologists, there are many women doctors that are writing hormone prescriptions for women and they don't give them testosterone. It's literally the most insane thing. I mean, it's literally completely anathema to what they should be getting, which is testosterone.
Yeah.
Because if you give them enough, it makes it into estrogen. So now you don't have to give them estrogen. You don't have to give them shit. Just give them testosterone. But
Right.
again, you also have this stereotypical world of if we give a woman testosterone, they're going to turn into a man.
Right.
They're going to become emasculated, hypermuscular. They're going to look like those female bodybuilders that look like they turn into dudes. I mean, it's complete nonsense, utter nonsense. But there's just
Right.
so much misinformation, Bill.
Yeah. Wow.
It's sad.
Yeah, that is bad. So you're getting more women contacting you right now, Jay, but man or woman, somebody contacts you, says, hey, I'm feeling low, you'll get them started on hormone optimization. But tell us how your regimen all works out there. I mean, I
Sure.
would imagine a lot of men, they get on testosterone and they're like, great, I don't need to look basically at anything else, maybe. But, how does it all work? How does that relationship with you work there?
Yeah, so very simple. Get your labs done. I have a deal with Private MD Labs. There's a ton of companies though, but I have a deal with Private MD Labs where I've set up 4 different laboratory panels. If you're absolutely broken, you don't have a pot to piss in, you can do the basic, which is like $50, all the way up to like a $1,500 elite protocol, which is a super deep dive under the hood, which measures every biomarker that you ever want to understand when you age, right? So if you do
Right.
that, you can then join my private membership group, which is $99 a month or $249 a quarter to save $50. I got close to 750 people, men and women in there. They're all very advanced. There's a lot of doctors, functional health professionals. You can ask questions. I mean, you don't even have to ask questions really, because all you have to do is search. You know,
Oh,
it's like
I
the
thought
anti.
I was gonna say JAI would pop up and give you the answer,
It's,
right?
I actually have a bot on my computer, on my personal website, not that group, but
Yeah.
actually my moderators were talking to me last week about putting the bot in there. I mean, dude, it's so funny you said that. But very truthfully, you go in that group and you search. It's 4 years old. Every possible question that you could even think of has either been answered. And then if you don't find the answer, you type the question in, and there's 50 people that will respond in 5 minutes, and you
Yeah.
got every answer you could possibly have. But from there, if you have, you get your labs back and you have a hormone deficiency, I recommend you to different doctors. Um, you're the first guy to get this, but I've watched. So I sit on the boards of 4 major, call them hormone optimization, 2 publicly traded, 2 privately traded companies, but you know their names. I won't tell you who they are because I'm not allowed to say it, but you know who some of these companies' names are. And I've watched these companies absolutely fail miserably and abort most of what they attempted to do from an onboarding standpoint. So over the last 7 years, as that's been the time I've been either on the board or a part of them. I've watched what not to do. So we're about to launch BioLongevity MD. Now, I don't want to give anybody a date, but it's coming this year. Knock on wood here. And I think my desk is fake wood, Bill. But the reality is it's coming. And once that comes, I will have 4 doctors all over North America, all licensed to practice medicine in all 50 states and Canada. And I will be able to recommend treatment protocols for both men and women on how to do this right. Because again, like I said, I've watched so many people do this wrong. I know it works. Not everybody is like a cookie cutter boilerplate template of how to do it for men or how to do it women. There is some
No.
doctoring, there is some individual tinkering, but I know pretty well because I've been watching for 20 years what works for a man and what works for a woman, 95 to 96% of the time. So I'm really grateful that that's coming because once that comes, I now know that I don't have to like push them to this doctor in Florida or this doctor in New York or this doctor in Southern California. I literally have my own people and they're paid to understand what to do. Now, one of the other things to explain to you, and it's important, I think, for the people to watch this, is that a lot of these companies that have been in this space have screwed up, not because they were incompetent, but because the laws of the industry are insane. And what I mean by that is if you live in New York and your doctor's in Denver, and the pharmacy that the doctor in Denver uses is in California, good luck getting your medication shipped
Right.
because of interstate laws. I mean, interdictionally, I mean, it's insane, Bill, how ridiculous all this is. So when you build a company like this, you have to understand, all these insane laws across state transfers, compound pharmacies, doctor regulations, doctor licenses, all of this stuff. And so I've watched it and I know what to do. And so you're never going to have to worry about like breaking the law. I swear to you, I'm not joking about this. Almost all of the major compound pharmacies who work side by side with these clinics, they commit multiple felonies every day. Because when you ship drugs from California to New York or New York to California or Colorado to Florida, Florida to California, you're breaking so many laws. It's insane.
Yeah.
There isn't enough enforcement at the FDA, the compound pharmacy, the AMA, all the alphabets to enforce it. But it's
Right.
still breaking the law. And if you ever do something stupid and they want to come after you, they got a lot of recourse.
Uh,
So doing it the way we're going to do it, we're not breaking the law. Like I know exactly what to do. So, to answer your question, it'll be by the end of the year. We're telling people that by August 1st, we're going to launch. But I mean, dude, we're going to have so many people that are going to want to leave their current doctors and practices because they know they're getting quacked. So we're going to probably have to really stair step this and be very, very methodical in the first couple months and say, hey,
Mm,
we have room for
yeah,
150 patients. 150, 150, 150, and then onboard people, give people the right experience, make sure everything is functioning right, and then probably open the floodgates by early next year. But I mean, I already know
cool.
this, man. Like there will be somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000 patients just in the United States that will literally leave their current practice on the day that we announce this or want to.
Right.
So we got to be very careful that we avoid a stampede and that we also avoid, massive problems at onboarding because we're only, one company right now and we're not using AI and we're not using, an army of zombots. It's going to be very personal,
Right.
very concierge. You're going to talk to the doctor. You're not going to get some nurse practitioner or NP. I mean, what do you call it? Physician's assistant, like most of these
Right. A
companies
PA. Right.
do.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, like it's going to be very slow and very exploratory and very methodical, but we're going to do it right. And, just to answer deeper after that, if the patient, has a hormone deficiency and we optimize their hormones or start them and they also want to do peptides, they can buy peptides. If they want to use bioregulators, they can use bioregulators. I mean, again, it's not going to be super complex where we load them up with all these things. It's going to be, let's get their hormones dialed first.
Right.
Once your hormones are dialed 4 to 6 weeks in, two to 3 months in, then we can talk about adding things, right? But let's do the basics. Let's not do what all the other idiots have done always from the beginning, which is like make as much money as possible and then let God sort them out, right? Because all these people, dude. I mean, if you see the recidivism in hormones, I'm not kidding you when I tell you this, Bill. The average patient lasts 8 weeks. And then they go to the next doctor or windmill clinic, and all those good guys, and I know them all. What do you think they say? My job is to unfuck the people.
Right.
Like literally, I have to unf them from where they were and resort them and restart them and do all these different things because they were put on all these things and they have no idea what's doing what.
Right.
Right. So we know that when we do this, you're going to be given testosterone. And then depending on your metabolic syndromes, maybe this and maybe that, and that's it.
Right.
And then we're going to go where we're going to go. And again, if you're of fertility ages or you still want kids and you're in your 40s and 50s, you'll get one drug that'll help with fertility. But I'm not giving you, or my people will not be giving you all these different things. If you want those, we'll say, hey, man, we're not the right clinic for you.
Right.
We're here to do this right. We're not here to make money on you. We're not here to, value add you. We're not here to tell you that you can do this peptide or that peptide or this peptide. We're here to get you right. And then you can come back and start experimenting.
Sure.
So
All right.
that's kind of where it's going to go.
Great methodology. I like it. And
Well, it's
yeah,
it's theory and principle right now, but we do know what we want to do. It's a matter of whether or not we can execute, but I feel confident we will.
nice. Well, very cool. So people are interested in working with you. They can start out. I know I actually had a chance to peruse through your website, jcampbell.com. You've got a
Yep.
lot of great articles out there. But where's the best starting point for people?
That's probably it. For anybody who watches this podcast, you can go to jcampbell.com/free books. And I give you a free PDF copy of all the books that I've written, which now are 8. 5 of them have been international bestsellers. But I mean, the 2 top testosterone optimization therapy books in the history of the world are there. The number 1 selling book on peptides, which is actually old now, it's 2023, but Optimize Your Health with Therapeutic Peptides. And then I have 2 books on fasting that are top 5, fasting books, 30 Days to Shreds, which is my newest book, which is last year in September. And then the book before that was kind of old, but also very high selling. It's called The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. But both of those books will teach you how to fast in the most maximal optimized way so that you can lose the most amount of fat in the shortest amount of
Hmm.
time in the healthiest way possible.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other podcast. We could have gone off,
I
talked
mean, yeah,
about
if you
that.
want to
Right.
talk about fasting, man, have me back. And I'd love to do that because I love to do deep dives. I mean, most people in America today are screwed up metabolically because they eat like keto or carnivore and then they're not metabolically flexible and they retard insulin metabolism. And it's really simple. Diets are really simple. You just have to understand how to remain metabolically flexible. And, very truthfully, Bill, like your needs are relative to your energetic demand.
Right.
If you're like you, right, you're a marathon ultra endurance triathlete, you can probably do low carb, keto, carnivore, and be fueled fine and have periodic refeeds and glycogen. But if you're a bodybuilder, you can't do that. You
Right.
need carbs. And too many people get this confused. It's very simple. We get our carbs when we deserve them. And that doesn't come from me. That comes from one of my idols in life who's now dead, Charles Poliquin. But that's the truth, right? Like we get carbs, which is our glycogen and muscle refueling when we
Oh
deserve
yeah.
them.
Right.
That's how it works. There's no other person that's ever said anything smarter when it comes to carbs. But dude, in this country, there are so many people, and you know this, that are carb phobic. They
Oh, I
think
know.
that carbs make you fat. It's
Right.
insane.
Yep.
Keto and carnivore has destroyed nutritional dietary strategies in America because they have taught people that carbs are evil. They have taught people that
Right.
carbs are bad. It's insanity to listen to this.
Yeah.
One other nugget, and then we can end.
All right.
This is new stuff. We didn't even talk about GLP-1 peptides, which is like one of my biggest things. And we now know that the average GLP-1 using peptide user in the United States, which again is the peptide that suppresses appetite, increases metabolic rate, blah, 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 is eating low carb, keto, or carnivore. So what does that happen? What does that mean? What it means is the GLP-1 peptides work by suppressing appetite and slowing gastric emptying. So it's slowing your digesting. Well, think about this,
Right.
Bill. If you never eat carbs and you don't have any fiber or roughage in your diet and all you're eating is fat and protein, what do you think happens to your gallbladder, to your thyroid gland, to all of this metabolic waste processes when you don't have any way to get the food in through your bowels?
Right.
You end up with
Overtaxed.
catastrophic. You end up with
Yeah.
catastrophic issues. And so this is what's happening in America right now. All these people are using GLPs, all destroying literally their gallbladders, destroying their thyroid glands, destroying everything to do with bowel movements because they can't get the food through because they're avoiding carbs.
Yeah.
It's literally insane what is happening. And no one is talking about this, but this is where you will eventually see this. And this is even more importantly why you have to eat carbs. And no, you don't have to eat carbs every meal, but who you are, depending on your energetic demand and what you do, bodybuilder, endurance athlete, swimmer, Olympic caliber athlete, you have to fuel your body carbohydrates, again, sugar, muscle glycogen when the body is empty.
Right.
And you can't just eat nothing but protein and fat, which so many people do because, dude, you literally damage insulin metabolism.
Yeah.
You
Well, we
completely
endurance
destroy it.
athletes, we are very friendly with carbs.
Well, yeah,
There's
of
no way
course. I
we
mean,
can
you guys
function
know
without.
this stuff,
Right.
but so many people don't.
Yeah.
And that's the problem out there in America today. And honestly, with so many people using GLP-1s, and look, I love GLP-1s. I could talk about them all day. They're a beautiful drug and they do so many things for improving metabolic health, but only when they're done right. And only
Yeah.
when they're done in the context of health and longevity. And again, so many doctors are just trying to make money because they start people at a high dose and then they start them higher. Because again, that's how the pharmaceutical companies make money and that's how the individual practitioner makes money.
Right.
And you already heard me say it. You start low, you go slow. Everything that we use should be a microdose.
Yeah.
We play around with the dose relative to our biochemical, the geeks now call it individual bioenergetics, but it's basically biochemical individuality or N of one sensitivity. And we start as low as possible and we go as slow as possible.
Right.
And we assess our tolerance, we assess our responses and
Yeah.
our response patterning, and that's how it works. You don't
Only
start a high dose and, overwhelm your receptors and fuck you up. And then, before you know it, you're like 4 weeks in and you keep going higher and higher and higher until eventually it doesn't work.
right. That'll
And
be like
everything
me.
goes haywire from there.
Yeah, be me like me recommending a beginner runner to go out and do a 20-mile run to get ready for a
Exactly.
marathon, right?
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? I would love to do a deep dive on that with you later on. That
Yeah, dude, have me back, man. I mean, you ask great questions. I love your demeanor. Your energy is amazing. I'd love to do it. Just let me know.
Yep. Okay. And I'm not even on testosterone. I go all this energy. Go figure.
Sounds like I might have to
Uh,
get you on there too.
yeah, I'll tell you my secret later on, but that's all another
Awesome.
thing. But
Awesome, man.
Jay, what have we missed here besides, the obvious thing? I mean, people get a hold of you at jcampbell.com and anything else they should jump into right now?
So yeah, just a couple things. I'm on social media, Jay Campbell 333. The only places that you'll ever get me where I'm actually there and not at Teams would be on X or Twitter, which is again Jay Campbell 333. IG, I'm not really there. I do have teams that are posting there and posting clips and stuff like that, but that's also Jay Campbell 333. If you want to get a hold of me on social, go to X. And then the other thing I would just mention my company. So BioLongevity Labs, we launched in October of last year in very short order, 7 months now. We're blowing up and we've gone from like literally zero, a month in revenue to over 3 million in month in revenue. And we really honestly do it's not a goal, it's an absolute guarantee that we will become the Amazon of biohackers. We want to offer every bleeding edge, tip of the spear, gray market, general market, small molecule, peptide, bioregulator, even custom formulations and blends. But we want to give people anywhere in the globe the access to like what they want to use, again, to optimize their health and not to be subject to the abject quackery of sick care medicine. So watch for that company. If you do go there, it's biolongevitylabs.com. Feel free to use my affiliate code. It's JAYC, and that will save you 15%.
JAYC. That's good stuff. Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Jay. This has been awesome. Like I say, we could do an awful lot, so we will do it again.
That's awesome, Bill. I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks for even through the technical difficulties, you crushed it.
I was just going to say, appreciate your patience through all that. God knows what was going on in the Zoom world out there. Some AI bot probably shot us down, you know?
Always, man. It's the reptilian AI. They definitely are. They don't want this kind of info getting out there, but we still made it happen. So let me
Those
know how I can serve you, my
bastards.
brother.
Yeah, you too, man.
All
Well,
right, man.
thank you
Have a
so
great one.
much.
Okay, I'll see you. Bye bye.
Bye.